Delivery girl ended up pregnant after a one-night stand with a Comatose CEO, and he spoiled her when he awoke. Hello everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It is quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support truly means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Please write your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now let us return to our main character, the hallway of Street. Jude's medical center was quiet that night, the kind of quiet that felt heavy, like the building itself was holding its breath. The overhead lights glowed a soft white, reflecting off the polished floors as the young delivery worker, Mia Reyes, pushed open the door to room 508. She had come to drop off essential supplies, nothing more, but every time she entered this room, she felt an ache inside her chest that she never understood. Inside, the machines hummed in slow, steady rhythms. The monitor blinked with calm green lines, marking the faint heartbeat of the man lying motionless on the bed. His name was Grant Hale, the 35-year-old CEO of Hale Technologies, a man once known for his fierce leadership and relentless ambition. Now he was silent, still, a powerful life placed on pause after a devastating accident that had left him in a coma for 6 months. Mia paused by the doorway, her breath catching the moment she saw him. There was something different tonight, something she could not name. She stepped closer, carrying the box of medical items against her chest, her heartbeat picking up just a little too fast. Grant looked peaceful, almost too peaceful. His dark hair rested neatly across his forehead, his face pale under the soft glow of the monitor lights. There was no sign that he could hear anything, no sign that he could feel the world moving around him. And yet Mia found herself talking to him every time she did her deliveries, as if her voice might somehow reach the part of him that the doctors insisted was still asleep. "Good evening, Mr. Hale," she whispered gently, placing the supplies on the shelf. "It is just me again. I hope today was kind to you." Her words floated into the quiet room. She had no reason to speak to him, no reason to stay longer than her job required, but she always did. Maybe it was because he looked so alone. Maybe it was because her own life was overflowing with worries that felt too heavy to carry, and talking to a sleeping stranger was easier than admitting she was drowning. Or maybe it was because of that one night, months ago, a night she tried so hard not to think about, a night that had changed everything for her. She reached for the chart at the end of his bed and adjusted it the way the nurses preferred. As she turned back, she noticed something she had never seen before. His fingers moved. It was the smallest twitch, barely there, but enough to make her freeze mid-breath. Her eyes widened. "Mr. Hale, did you just move?" For a long moment, the room stayed completely still. She wondered if she imagined it, if exhaustion was finally catching up with her. But then she saw it again. A subtle shift, a quiver along the muscle of his hand. The monitor beeped slightly faster, just 1 or 2 beats, but she heard the difference immediately. Her heart thudded loudly. She stepped closer, fear and hope tangling inside her chest. "If you can hear me, please try again." There was no answer, only silence. But Mia felt something shift in the air around her, as if the room itself sensed a change coming. She did not know it yet. But tonight would be the first sign that Grant Hale was fighting his way back, that his story with her was not over, that the truth she carried alone was about to collide with the man who had unknowingly altered the course of her life. And as the monitor steadied once more, Mia whispered softly, "Please wake up. Someone out here needs you more than you know." The automatic door slid open as Mia stepped out of room 508, her hands still slightly trembling from what she had seen. The hallway stretched before her, bright white and too quiet, but her thoughts were louder than the hospital machines behind her. She kept replaying that tiny twitch in Grant Hale's fingers, wondering if it had truly happened, or if her mind was playing tricks on her after months of sleepless nights and worry. As she walked toward the service elevator, a nurse called out to her from behind the station desk. "Mia, are you doing all right? You look a little pale." Mia forced a small smile. "I am fine. Just a long shift," the nurse nodded sympathetically. Everyone knew Mia worked too many hours. She was always the one covering night deliveries, weekend shifts, and last-minute requests. They admired her grit, but none of them knew the full truth of why she pushed herself so hard. Outside, the cold night air greeted her with a sharp bite. She wrapped her thin jacket tightly around herself and started the long walk toward the bus stop. The city lights shimmered in distant colors, and the sound of traffic hummed like distant waves. Her breath came out in soft white clouds as she crossed the street, her footsteps slow and heavy. Her phone buzzed. She pulled it out, expecting a delivery notification, but it was the reminder she dreaded every evening. Rent due in 5 days. Late fees will be applied. Her stomach tightened. She slipped the phone back into her pocket and kept walking. The truth was, Mia was barely holding her life together. Every paycheck disappeared into rent, insurance, groceries, and the growing list of expenses that came with the secret she carried. She had nobody she could tell, nobody who would believe her, and certainly nobody who would support her. She reached the bus stop and lowered herself onto the cold metal bench. Her hand instinctively drifted to her stomach. She exhaled, long and shaky. She was showing only a little, barely noticeable under her jacket, but she knew she did not have much time before people started asking questions she was not ready to answer. She remembered the night that changed everything, the rain, the wrong apartment, the desperate mix-up that had pushed her into the path of a man she had never imagined meeting. Grant had been vulnerable even then, barely conscious, trapped between life and loss. She had stayed with him until help arrived, unaware that the hours they shared that night would become the center of her entire future. Now she carried the proof, and he was still asleep, somewhere between this world and another. As the bus approached, the headlights washed over her, revealing the exhaustion in her eyes. She climbed aboard, paid the fare, and sank into a seat near the back. The ride was long and quiet, and the gentle rocking of the bus made her eyelids heavy, but her mind refused to rest. For months, she had lived in fear. Fear of losing her job, fear of not being able to afford a doctor, fear of what would happen if Grant never woke up, and beneath those fears lived a deeper one, a question she could never answer. Would he even want to know? The bus rattled toward her neighborhood, a place where the streetlights flickered and the nights felt colder. She stepped off and made her way up the narrow staircase to her small apartment. Inside, the air was still, carrying the smell of old paint and worn fabric. She placed her bag down and sat on the edge of her bed, rubbing her face with both hands. She whispered into the quiet room, "Just one more day, Mia. Keep going, one more day." But as she lay back and stared at the ceiling, the memory of Grant's hand twitching replayed in her mind. A spark of hope flickered inside her chest, soft but undeniable. Maybe tonight was not an illusion. Maybe something in him truly responded. Maybe, just maybe, Grant Hale was finally trying to come back. And if he did, everything in her world would change. The next morning, Mia returned to St. Jude's Medical Center before the sun had fully risen. A thin layer of frost covered the sidewalks, crunching under her shoes as she hurried toward the employee entrance. Her long night had done nothing to quiet her thoughts. If anything, she felt even more restless. She needed to see him again. She needed to know if what she saw was real. Inside the hospital, the early shift buzzed with soft chatter and rolling carts. Nurses checked charts, monitors beeped faintly, and the smell of fresh coffee drifted from the break room. Mia clocked in, picked up the supply crate for the West Wing, and made her way back to room 508. Her hand hesitated on the door handle. A small breath escaped her lips before she pushed it open. Grant Hale lay exactly as she left him the night before, eyes closed, breath steady, still trapped somewhere deep inside himself. But the memory of his fingers moving kept Mia rooted in place. She stepped inside quietly, letting the door slide shut behind her. "Good morning, Mr. Hale," she said softly. "I hope today brings you closer to waking up." She began unpacking the supplies, moving with the practiced calm of someone who had repeated these tasks hundreds of times. Clean linens, fresh bandages, sterile water. She checked his IV line, smoothing the tape along his skin with gentle fingers. Even though she was not officially a nurse, she had learned every detail of his care through repetition and observation. Then, as she always did, Mia reached into her messenger bag and pulled out the small, portable speaker she had bought from a second-hand shop. The plastic was scratched and a corner had chipped, but it worked well enough. She placed it on the bedside table and scrolled through her playlist. "I brought your favorite again," she whispered, almost embarrassed by how personal the ritual had become. It had started months ago, on a night much like this one, when she found him restless and his breathing uneven. She had tried to calm him by speaking softly, but something inside her nudged her to do more. She played an old jazz song her mother used to love, a warm melody with soft piano and slow trumpet. To her surprise, his heartbeat had steadied on the monitor. Since then, she played the same song every shift. She tapped the screen, and the gentle notes filled the quiet room. Mia settled into the chair beside his bed. She always stayed a few extra minutes after finishing her tasks, even though it was not part of her job. She folded her hands in her lap and stared at him with a mix of sadness and something she was afraid to name. "You know," she murmured, "I told the nurse that I was just tired last night. But the truth is, I saw you move. I really did. Maybe it was only for a second, but I know I did not imagine it." The music filled the silence between her words. The melody wrapped around the two of them, a bridge between a woman clinging to hope and a man fighting his way back to the world. "I wish you could hear me," she continued. "There is so much I need to tell you, so much I wish I could ask. But I guess all I can do is wait." Her voice broke slightly. She wiped her cheek and forced herself to breathe slowly. Her hand drifted to her stomach again, hidden beneath her jacket. She stared at Grant's still face, knowing that he had no idea about the small life growing because of him. No idea of the fear she carried, no idea of the nights she cried alone, no idea that he had already changed her life without ever opening his eyes. The song ended, leaving the room in a soft hush. Mia stood, placing her hand lightly over Grant's. His skin felt warm beneath her touch. "I will come back tonight," she whispered. "Please, please keep fighting." She turned to leave, unaware that the moment her hand slipped away, his fingertip twitched again. The monitor flickered, almost as if responding to her presence. And somewhere deep inside the silence, the man who slept began to stir. The rest of Maya's day passed slowly, each shift blending into the next. She delivered medications, checked inventory, and navigated the crowded hallways with the same quiet determination she carried every day. But no matter where she went or what task she completed, her mind kept drifting back to room 508. She could not shake the image of Grant's hand moving beneath her touch. She replayed it over and over again as she loaded supply carts and signed delivery logs. There had been nothing accidental about that twitch. Something inside him had responded to her voice, to her presence, to the song she always played for him. The memory filled her with a cautious spark of hope, one she tried not to feed too much, because hope had disappointed her more times than she dared to count. When her evening shift finally arrived, Mia returned to the West Wing with her second stack of supplies. The hallway was quieter now, with only a few nurses on rotation and the distant hum of machines filling the space. She approached room 508 with a mix of anticipation and nerves. Her hand shook slightly as she reached for the door. Inside, the room was dim, lit only by the soft glow of the monitor and the lamp near the window. Grant lay as still as he had that morning, but Mia felt a strange pull the moment she stepped inside, as if something in the air had shifted during her absence. "Good evening, Mr. Hale," she whispered gently. "It is just me again." She placed the new supplies on the counter and checked the monitor. His heart rate was steady but slightly higher than earlier. Not enough to alarm the staff, but enough for Mia to notice. She moved closer, her footsteps slow and hesitant. As she adjusted the blanket over his chest, his eyelashes fluttered. Mia froze. The blanket slipped from her hands. She stared, afraid to move, afraid to breathe. "Grant?" she whispered, her voice barely audible. "Can you hear me?" For a moment, nothing happened. The room remained perfectly still. Then, in a motion so small she questioned her own eyes. His eyes shifted beneath his eyelids, as if he were dreaming or trying to surface from deep underwater. Her heart thudded painfully against her ribs. She reached for the call button but stopped halfway, uncertainty gripping her. Was she imagining this again? Would the nurses dismiss her like they did before? She moved her hand away and leaned closer to him. "Mr. Hale, if you can hear me, try again," she said softly. "Anything, please." His fingers curled, just a fraction, but real enough for Mia to gasp. Her eyes filled with tears instantly. She covered her mouth with her hand as her breath trembled. She pressed the call button. Within seconds, a nurse rushed in. What happened? He moved, Mia said breathlessly. His hand. His eyes. I saw it. The nurse hurried to the bedside, checking the monitor, inspecting his eyelids, watching for any sign of conscious response. For several tense seconds, nothing happened. Then Grant's finger twitched again, slow but deliberate. The nurse's eyes widened. I will get the doctor. Do not leave his side. She hurried out of the room, leaving Mia standing there, shaking, overwhelmed by a wave of emotion she had held in for months. Mia stepped closer and gently brushed a strand of hair from Grant's forehead. You are coming back, she whispered, tears slipping down her cheeks. I knew you could hear me. As she held his hand, the monitor beeped slightly faster, responding to the moment as if echoing the truth neither of them could yet speak aloud. Deep within the stillness of his coma, Grant Hale was waking up, and Mia Reyes was the first person he reached for. Doctors and nurses flooded into the room within minutes. Their voices were low but urgent, a mix of clinical command and cautious hope. Mia stepped back to give them space, but her eyes never left Grant's face. Her heart hammered as the medical team checked his vitals, lifted his eyelids, and ran through the standard response tests. For several tense moments, nothing happened. The room felt suspended in a fragile silence, the kind that held the weight of months of uncertainty. Then Grant's lashes trembled again. His breathing shifted. His eyes moved beneath the lids as if trying to follow the sound of the voices surrounding him. One of the doctors leaned over him. Mr. Hale, if you can hear me, please try to open your eyes. Mia held her breath. Slowly, painfully, as though fighting against invisible chains, Grant's eyelids fluttered open. His pupils adjusted to the light, unfocused at first, then shifting in small, searching movements across the room. Mia pressed her hand to her mouth, tears instantly filling her eyes. The doctor continued speaking, asking basic orientation questions, but Grant seemed overwhelmed, his gaze drifting without recognition. His throat moved as if he attempted a sound, but only a dry gasp escaped. Easy, Mr. Hale, the doctor said gently. You have been unconscious for a long time. Take your time. Grant's eyes moved again, slow and heavy, until they finally landed on Mia. The moment their eyes met, a strange calm washed over his features. He stared at her with a fragile intensity, as if trying to place her, as if something inside him recognized her even when his mind could not fully understand why. Mia stepped forward cautiously, her voice soft and trembling. It is all right. You are safe. His lips parted, struggling to form a word. No sound came out, but Mia saw it. The faint movement, the shape of her name, Mia, she gasped. The doctors exchanged surprised looks. He should not have known her name. She was not part of his medical care team. She was not a family member. And yet, in the first seconds of consciousness, her name was the one he reached for. The doctor gently adjusted Grant's pillow and checked his pulse again. He is responding. This is an excellent sign, but he will be very weak. We will need to continue careful monitoring. Mia stepped closer, unable to hold herself back. She reached out and touched his hand, the same hand that had twitched for her before anyone else believed it. Grant's fingers moved slowly, curling around hers with the smallest amount of strength. A broken whisper escaped his throat. You stayed. The words were barely audible, cracked from disuse, but they pierced directly into Maya's heart. She nodded, her voice trembling. Yes, I stayed. Grant closed his eyes again, not in sleep but in exhaustion. The doctor assured her that this was normal, that his body needed time to adjust. But even with his eyes shut, his hand remained wrapped around hers. Mia stayed at his side until the medical team finished their checks. When the room finally quieted, she sat in the chair beside him, watching the gentle rise and fall of his chest. She felt a mix of relief, fear, and something deeper she tried to ignore. For the first time since the night everything changed, she allowed herself to hope for more than survival. She whispered softly, "Welcome back, Grant." His fingers tightened just a little, as if answering her. And although neither of them could see the road ahead, one truth had finally broken through the silence. Grant Hale was no longer a man trapped in a coma. He was awake, and he had reached for her first. The next 48 hours passed in a blur of medical evaluations, soft voices, and cautious optimism. Word spread quickly throughout street. Jude's medical center that the long-term coma patient in room 508 had finally awakened. Doctors came and went, nurses adjusted equipment, and monitors beeped with renewed purpose. But no matter how many faces entered the room, Grant's eyes always drifted back to the same person, Mia. She tried to remain in the background, reminding herself that she was only a delivery worker, that she had no official role in his care. But every time she stepped away, Grant's gaze followed her until she returned to his side. The medical team noticed it, though no one fully understood it. They simply assumed that patients sometimes fixated on the first familiar voice they heard after waking, but Mia knew it was more than that. He remembered her name. He felt her presence before he ever opened his eyes. On the second morning of his recovery, the doctor encouraged him to try speaking again. Grant's voice was raspy and weak, but his determination was unmistakable. "Water," he whispered. Mia immediately stepped forward, helping the nurse guide the cup to his lips. Grant drank slowly, his trembling hand brushing against hers. When he finished, he looked up at her with a gratitude so raw it made her chest tighten. "Thank you," he murmured. "You are welcome," she whispered back. The doctor adjusted the bed rails and began documenting his progress. "Mr. Hale, your recovery will be slow, but you are responding exceptionally well. We will begin light therapy this week. You will need support to regain full mobility, but everything so far indicates a strong return." Grant nodded faintly, his attention drifting once again to Mia. "Will she be here?" Mia felt her heart stop. The doctor glanced between the two of them. "Miss Reyes is part of the delivery staff, not medical care. She is not required to stay." Grant's brows furrowed, a rare flicker of frustration crossing his face. His voice came out hoarse but firm. "I want her nearby." Mia swallowed hard. Her hands trembled slightly. She knew she should step back, create distance, remind herself that their connection came from extraordinary circumstances, not real understanding. But something in Grant's voice anchored her to the floor. "I can stay for a little while," she said softly. Relief washed over his expression. As the day went on, Mia helped as much as she could without crossing professional boundaries. She read to him when he grew restless. She played the jazz song he seemed to calm to instantly. She held his hand during moments of pain when the doctors tested his reflexes. Every time she touched him, the monitor steadied, as if his body recognized her before his mind fully did. Later that evening, when the room finally emptied and the hallway quieted, Grant turned his head toward her with effort. "You were here before," he said slowly, searching for the right words. "I remember your voice." Maya's breath caught. "You do?" He nodded weakly. "It felt like someone was fighting for me. Someone who did not walk away." Her eyes stung, tears threatening. She tried to smile, gentle and steady. "I just wanted you to know that you were not alone." A long silence followed, filled only by the rhythmic beeping of the monitor. Grant studied her face with an intensity that made her heart throb painfully. "Why?" he whispered. Mia looked down at her hands. She could not tell him the truth. Not yet. The fear of his reaction held her captive. She forced a calm breath and whispered back, "Because everyone deserves someone who stays." Grant closed his eyes, his expression softening. "Then I am fortunate." Mia brushed a strand of hair behind her ear, trying to steady herself. She stood to leave, but before she reached the door, his voice stopped her. "Mia, please, come back tomorrow." She turned slightly, her voice barely more than a breath. "I will." And as she stepped into the quiet hallway, her heart pounded with a truth she could no longer deny. Grant Hale was not just recovering, he was reaching for her, and every step he took pulled her deeper into a future she was terrified to face. Over the next several days, Grant's strength slowly returned. He could sit up with support, speak in full sentences, and stay awake for longer periods of time. The hospital staff praised his progress, calling it remarkable and rare. But nothing meant more to him than the moments when Mia entered the room. Every time the door opened and she stepped inside, something in him softened, as if her presence unlocked a calm he could not find anywhere else. Mia tried to keep her distance, reminding herself that he was recovering, that he was vulnerable, that she needed to guard the truth she carried. But each day he reached for her, and each day she found it harder to pull away. Everything changed late one afternoon when Grant received his first visit from his company's board liaison, a sharply dressed woman named Evelyn Stone. She entered room 508 with the confidence of someone used to controlling every narrative. Her heels clicked sharply against the floor, and her polished smile faltered the moment she saw Mia sitting beside his bed, reading to him. "Mr. Hale," Evelyn said, her voice clipped and formal, "we are relieved you are awake. There are urgent matters regarding the company that require your attention." Grant's eyes narrowed slightly. His voice, still soft but growing steadier, replied, "Not now." Evelyn blinked in surprise. "With all due respect, the situation cannot wait." "It can," Grant said firmly. "I am still recovering." Evelyn looked displeased, but she attempted another smile. Her gaze shifted to Mia, assessing, cold. "And who is this?" Grant's answer came instantly. "She is someone I trust." The words stunned both women in the room. Evelyn's expression tightened. "Trust? Mr. Hale, we have no records of her involvement in your medical care." "That does not matter," he said, his eyes fixed on Mia. Maya's throat tightened. She stood quickly, her hands shaking. "I should go. I did not mean to." Before she could finish, Evelyn stepped between them with a thin, icy smile. "Yes, perhaps you should. This is a private matter." Mia felt the sting immediately, but she forced herself to breathe. She reached for her bag, ready to slip out, when the doctor entered with a thick folder. "Miss Reyes, may I speak with you briefly?" he said. Mia froze. Grant frowned, uncertainty flickering in his eyes. She followed the doctor into the hallway, her heart pounding. He opened the folder and spoke quietly. "Miss Reyes, during Mr. Hale's evaluation, we noticed some details in your records from the night of his accident. There were inconsistencies in the timeline. We could not determine why you were present in the restricted emergency wing." Mia felt the blood drain from her face. "I can explain." "There is more," the doctor said gently. "Your recent medical tests show that you are expecting a child." Mia's breath shattered. Her hands trembled so violently she had to brace herself against the wall. The doctor continued softly, unaware of the depth of the truth he had stumbled into. "Given the circumstances of that night, and your proximity to Mr. Hale before he arrived unconscious, we may need to notify legal counsel to clarify what happened." Maya's vision blurred. Panic rose in her chest like a wave she could not push down. "No," she whispered. "Please do not tell him. I will leave. I will not cause trouble. Just, please do not tell him." The doctor looked troubled. "Miss Reyes, secrets like this cannot stay hidden." Before she could respond, Grant's voice echoed weakly from inside the room. "Mia?" She froze. Every part of her felt fragile, exposed, terrified. Evelyn stepped into the doorway with a cold, triumphant smile. "Mr. Hale, it appears we have discovered something unexpected." Grant's eyes shifted between Evelyn, the doctor, and Mia, confusion darkening his features. "What is happening?" Mia shook her head desperately. "Please, not like this." But Evelyn's voice cut sharply through the room. "She is pregnant, Mr. Hale, and you were the last person she saw before your accident." The world seemed to stop. Grant's breath caught. Mia's tears spilled, and in that suspended moment, everything she had tried to protect came crashing into the open. The secret she feared the most now lay between them, raw and undeniable. Silence weighed over the room like a heavy fog. Grant stared at Mia as if the world beneath him had tilted, as if every second since waking had been leading to this impossible moment. Mia could not look at him. She stood frozen in the doorway, her hands shaking, tears slipping down her cheeks faster than she could wipe them away. Grant's voice finally broke the silence. It was soft, unsteady, but unmistakably clear. "Mia, is it true?" Her breath trembled. She nodded, unable to speak. Evelyn stepped forward sharply. "Mr. Hale, I strongly advise you to distance yourself. This situation is complicated and potentially damaging for the company. We need to protect." Grant lifted a hand, silencing her instantly. "Stop!" The authority in his voice cut through the room like a blade. Even weakened by weeks of recovery, the presence that once commanded entire boardrooms flickered back into place. Grant pushed himself upright, ignoring the pain in his muscles. He looked at Mia, not with anger, but with a heartbreaking mixture of fear, confusion, and something deeper. Why did you not tell me? Mia finally found her voice, raw and trembling. Because I did not want anything from you. I did not want to complicate your life. I did not want to force something on you that you never agreed to. I thought you would hate me. Grant's expression softened with painful clarity. I could never hate you, Evelyn scoffed quietly. Mr. Hale, you cannot, honestly. Grant turned toward her with a cold, steady gaze that made her fall silent. Evelyn, leave the room. She stiffened. Mr. Hale, I am only trying to protect your reputation. My child, Grant said slowly, is not a scandal. The words shook the air. Evelyn faltered, her mouth opening and closing. When she realized she no longer had control, she stormed out. Only Mia and Grant remained. Grant reached out a trembling hand. Please, come here. Mia hesitated, every fear she had ever carried pulling her backward. But the look on his face, gentle, pleading, pulled her forward. She stepped to the edge of the bed and placed her hand in his. Grant exhaled shakily. I remember flashes from that night. The rain, your voice, the fear in your eyes when you tried to help me. You saved me long before I ever opened my eyes in this room. Mia cried harder, covering her mouth as the truth finally broke through all the walls she had built. You do not need to take responsibility for me, she whispered. I never wanted to be a burden. Grant squeezed her hand weakly, but with conviction. You are not a burden. You carried me when I had nothing. You stayed when everyone else moved on. And now you are carrying our child. He paused, breath trembling. I want to be part of this, whatever it takes. Mia shook her head in disbelief. Grant, you are still healing. You do not have to promise anything. He looked right into her, his voice quiet but unwavering. I am not promising out of pity. I am promising because you matter to me. Because something inside me woke up long before my body did. Because when I opened my eyes, the first thing I wanted was you. Her knees almost gave way. Grant gently pulled her closer until her forehead rested against his. I want you to stay, he whispered. Not because of the baby, not because of what happened, but because I feel something for you that I cannot ignore. Let me protect you. Let me protect our child. Let me earn your trust. Mia sobbed into his shoulder, overwhelmed. But beneath the fear, beneath the pain, beneath the months of loneliness, something warm bloomed in her chest, a fragile hope she had not allowed herself to feel. Grant lifted her chin with shaking fingers. Mia Reyes, let us try. Let us build something honest from everything that nearly broke us. She nodded, tears falling freely. Yes, she whispered. I want that too. Grant pulled her into a trembling embrace, holding her as tightly as his recovering body allowed. And for the first time since the night everything changed, Mia felt truly safe. Not alone, not afraid, not forgotten. Just held by the man who had finally come back. By the father of her child. By the heart that had chosen her long before it ever woke. The days that followed moved gently, like the soft turning of pages in a book neither of them wanted to rush through. Grant remained in recovery, but his progress strengthened with every sunrise. The doctors were astonished at the speed of his healing. He regained more mobility, more clarity, more color in his face. But the change that struck everyone the most was the way his gaze always settled on Mia the moment she entered the room. It was as if she anchored him to the world. One quiet morning, sunlight filtered through the window blinds, casting warm bands of gold across the floor. Mia arrived early, carrying a small bag with fresh fruit and a new speaker to replace the old chipped one she had been using for months. Grant looked up the moment she stepped inside, his expression softening into something warm and unmistakably grateful. You came early, he said, his voice still gentle but steadier now. Mia smiled shyly. I wanted to make sure you had breakfast. Grant watched her arrange the items on the table beside him. You have done more for me than anyone else. I do not know how to thank you. You do not have to thank me, Mia replied. You just have to heal. Grant reached out his hand, and Mia, almost automatically, placed hers in his. His touch was warm, his grip stronger than yesterday. He looked at her with a sincerity that made her heartbeat quicken. I meant what I said, he whispered. I want to be part of your life. I want to be part of our child's life. But I want more than that, Mia. I want to understand you. I want to know everything you have been through. Her breath caught. I was afraid you would not want me once you knew the truth. Grant shook his head slowly. The truth only made me realize how much I owe you. You saved me on the night of my accident. You stayed with me when no one else did. You carried a burden you should have never faced alone. You gave our child life under impossible circumstances. He squeezed her hand gently. I will spend the rest of my days trying to be worthy of that. Tears filled Maya's eyes. She lowered her head, overwhelmed by the weight of his sincerity. When she lifted it again, Grant was watching her the same way he had watched her. The first moment he opened his eyes like she was the single point of light in a long, endless darkness. A soft knock sounded at the door. The doctor stepped in with a warm smile. Good news, Mr. Hale. We expect you will be discharged in a few days. You will still need physical therapy, but you are well on your way. Grant nodded, then glanced at Mia. I want her in my care plan. Mia's cheeks warmed. Grant, I am serious, he said. You are the one who brought me back. I do not want to heal without you. The doctor chuckled. It seems you already have the best medicine. After he left, the room fell quiet again. Grant reached toward the bedside table and gently picked up the new speaker Mia brought. He held it carefully, then looked at her with the hint of a smile. You always played that jazz song for me, he said. I heard it, somewhere deep inside, even when I could not move, even when I could not speak. That song was the first thing that reminded me I was still alive. Mia blinked back tears. I played it because it was the only thing that made you calm. Grant placed the speaker down and motioned for her to come closer. When she did, he took both her hands in his. Mia Reyes, he whispered, you gave me a reason to wake up, and now I want to give you something in return. Her breath trembled. What is that? A future, he said softly. A family. A life we build together because we choose it, not because of circumstance. Let me be there for you, for our child, and for whatever comes next. Her tears finally fell freely. She leaned forward gently until her forehead touched his. Yes, she whispered. I want that future too. Grant wrapped his arms around her as tightly as his healing body allowed. The monitor beside him steadied, its rhythmic beeping blending with the soft morning air. It was the sound of hope. The sound of new beginnings, the sound of two lives choosing each other after surviving what should have broken them, and for the first time, neither of them faced the world alone.